everybody. I'm nervous here. Okay, thank you so much for coming here, everybody. Good morning from Jakarta, good afternoon, and good evening for the friends around the world. Before I start, I want you guys to give your best smile to the camera. Please open the camera if you can. I want everybody to be happy to join this program. Can I see your smile, your big smile? Okay. Bu Barbara. And we have a smile, the sweetest smile. Oh, teacher Nandor, you are here. I'm nervous. My teacher here. And also all the friends here. Okay. It is great honor to welcome you all to Bandung Peace Week 2024. Today, we come together not only to commemorate the International Day of Peace, but also to continue the legacy of 1955 Asia-Africa Conference, which took place right here in Bandung. As we have seen in the video, this historic moment shaped the futures of nations and laid the foundation for global cooperation and peace, a foundation we continue to build on today. Also, as we have seen from the video, the Asia-Africa Conference was a symbol of hope for nations emerging from the shadows of colonialism. Its outcome, Dasa Sila Bandung, presented a powerful vision for a just and peaceful world. These visions continues to inspire movements for peace and solidarity worldwide. We carry these visions forward today as we gather for Bandung Peace Week 2024. This year's theme, as you see in the background, Action for Peace, the Journey of Healing, reminds us that peace is not just a distant ideal, but a journey that begins within each of us. This week, we focus not only on action, but on a fundamental element that lies at the heart of all peace efforts, is listening. In this program, we will practice deep listening, listening to our inner voice, to others around us, and to the world beyond. Listening is where healing begins. True peace is born from understanding, and understanding comes from truly hearing each other's stories, emotions, and experiences. But listening also means reflecting inwardly. Before we can contribute to peace in the world, we must first make peace within ourselves. We invite everyone this week to take the time to listen, both to the world outside and to our own hearts. This year, we are proud to have participation of 25 speakers from 11 countries, and some of speakers are here now, representing 8 IOC teams in the region and 4 peace networks, who will be sharing stories of change, trust building, and reconciliation. These stories are not just about the past, but about how we are shaping the future together. I would also like to extend my deepest appreciations to the 30 volunteers who have dedicated their time and energy to make this event possible. Without your tireless efforts and commitment, none of this would have been possible. And for sure, of course, a heartfelt thank you to the more than 70 participants from 16 countries. 16 countries, there are Indonesia, Cambodia, Australia, Philippines, Nigeria, Somalia, Uganda, Thailand, what else? Egypt, Turkey, Timor-Leste, South Africa, Peru, UK, and Bangladesh are registered for this event. Thank you so much. And now let me take a moment to share with you the structure of our week. We will have 3 main sessions: a morning session, an afternoon session, and an evening session. Every morning, starting tomorrow, we will invite you to join us for a morning reflection. It's a time to pause, look inward. And our afternoon and evening sessions will explore specific themes related to our journey for peace. For Monday, today, in this evening, we will focus on inner development for social change. Tomorrow evening, we will explore the crucial theme of trust building, how trust strengthens communities and paves the way for reconciliation. On Wednesday, we are excited to have a soft launching of the Women's Circle of Peace Indonesia. COP Indonesia will soft launching this Wednesday, a significant initiative that will empower women as vital agents of peace. And on Thursday, our theme will be family and reconciliation, acknowledging the importance of healings and peace within our closest relationship. And the last day, on Friday, we will close the week with a reflection on all we have learned, share, and the commitment we will take forward. Together, this week, we will not only celebrate peace, but actively practice it through meaningful conversations, reflections, and the vital act of listening. Through these actions, we will strengthen the bonds of understanding that unite us. Let us live this week inspired to take the lessons and actions of change back to our communities and lives. Thank you, everybody, and I wish you all deeply meaningful Bandung Peace Week 2024. Thank you very much.
Good morning. For all you knowing diversity, I will speak in bahasa, okay, Tenden? Haya.
Yes, mangga Kang.
May I share screen or just speaking?
Okay, let's Kang Wawan be a co-host.
Ya, terima kasih teman-teman. Senang sekali bisa berada di forum ini. Panitia meminta saya untuk berbicara tentang bagaimana semangat Bandung untuk perdamaian dilihat dari historisitas sampai perjalanan sampai sekarang ini.
Udah bisa Kang share screen?
Oke. Sebelumnya mungkin ini informasi penting. Saya seorang Muslim yang berkantor di gereja. Sekarang saya sedang berada di Gereja Kristen Pasundan, gerejanya Reverend Obertina. Obertina saya kira hadir juga di forum ini. Terima kasih karena kantor kami komunitas dialog antar agama di Bandung ada di kantor Sinode Gereja Kristen Pasundan. Saya akan cerita beberapa hal dalam 10 menit ini. Tidak semuanya ada di slide, tapi nanti yang terlewat di slide akan saya sampaikan secara lisan. Oke, pertama-tama Bandung pernah menjadi tempat konferensi Asia Afrika di tahun 1955. Ada beberapa negara yang terlibat sebagaimana teman-teman tahu dan itu informasinya sudah sangat terbuka. Ada Afghanistan, Indonesia, Pakistan, Burma, atau sekarang Myanmar, Filipina, Kamboja, Irak, Iran, Arab Saudi, Sri Lanka, dan banyak negara lain. Yang terpenting, konferensi Asia Afrika ini diselenggarakan untuk membahas perdamaian, pembangunan ekonomi, dan dekolonialisasi. Di tahun 1955 ada 24 negara yang terlibat, 5 negara penggagas diantaranya Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, dan Myanmar. Saat itu ada 1.500 anggota delegasi yang datang, kemudian ada 500 orang wartawan yang datang, ada 230 relawan, tentu ini betul-betul relawan ya. Bukan rela untuk wawan, tapi betul-betul relawan untuk jadi panitia konferensi Asia Afrika. Masyarakat terlibat dalam membuat jalan, dalam membetulkan jalan, menghias gedung-gedung, karena persiapan konferensi Asia Afrika saat itu hanya 3 bulan. Kemudian 14 hotel yang diisi, Hotel Preanger, Hotel Homan, Hotel Trio, dan lain-lain. Ada 14 hotel dan 31 bungalow. Di hari pertama konferensi Asia Afrika, tanggal 18 April tahun 55, para tamu negara jalan kaki dari Hotel Homan dan Hotel Preanger itu yang kemudian disebut sebagai Bandung Walk. Jadi perjalanan di Bandung. 2 minggu yang lalu teman-teman Jakarta Rum dan Floods Forum Lintas Agama Deklarasi Sancang bikin acara jalan-jalan untuk perdamaian keliling Bandung, tapi kami tidak menyebutnya Bandung Walk, kami membuat itu temanya Nikreh. Nikreh itu istilah dalam bahasa Sunda yang artinya adalah jalan kaki. Dan di saat itu juga melibatkan kuliner Kota Bandung, jadi Bandung sudah sangat terkenal kulinernya di sana. Waktu itu salah satu menu yang disuguhkan kepada para kepala negara itu colenak Pak Murdi. Jadi teman-teman yang rumahnya antara Cicadas dan Cicahem, ada colenak yang sangat legend yang sudah dimulai sejak tahun 1930, itu colenak Pak Murdi disuguhkan kepada para tamu. Kemudian juga ada satu restoran Madura, jadi Madura juga terlibat dalam konferensi Asia Afrika, Mas Yuda. Ada rumah makan Madura, namanya Rumah Makan Madrawi, itu di sebelah kanan sayap Masjid Agung, yang sekarang jadi pos Satpol PP. Itu dulunya Rumah Makan Madura. Di situ ada berbagai soto, ada 90 menu, para tamu negara makan di situ, dan karena menu Indonesia itu unik, air kobokannya saja sudah sangat bersih. Jadi ada beberapa kepala negara yang hampir meminum air kobokan. Banyak dinamika yang terjadi dalam konferensi Asia Afrika. Lintas agama juga terlibat. Waktu itu gereja katedral, kemudian teman-teman Tionghoa, karena saat itu negara Indonesia baru berumur 10 tahun, tapi berani menyelenggarakan konferensi yang sangat besar, itu dihadiri oleh separuh negara-negara yang ada di dunia, kalau hitungannya sekarang ya. Dan Soekarno sangat antusias sekali dengan konferensi Asia Afrika itu, sampai menghasilkan Dasar-Sila Bandung yang tadi sudah dibacakan, disampaikan melalui film dokumenter. Kalau dilihat Dasar-Sila Bandung ini berbicara tentang human rights, tentang hak asasi manusia, tentang tanpa konflik, tanpa kekerasan, kemudian penghormatan terhadap hukum, penghormatan terhadap independensi negara. Nah, ada poin-poin penting yang terjadi dalam konferensi Asia Afrika ini. Pertama, Asia Afrika diselenggarakan pasca Perang Dunia Kedua, dan ini mengatasi Perang Dingin. Tidak mudah bagi Pak Ali Sastro-Amijoyo, Perdana Menteri Indonesia, dan Presiden Soekarno untuk meyakinkan negara-negara di Asia Afrika untuk semuanya datang, karena antar negara juga punya sentimen. Tapi kekuatan lobby Indonesia waktu itu bisa menghadirkan banyak negara Asia Afrika. Jadi bisa mengatasi Perang Dingin pasca Perang Dunia Kedua. Kemudian di internal negara masing-masing juga kan biasa ada kekuatan politik yang banyak, dan itu bisa dipersatukan oleh lobby-lobby dari Indonesia untuk mereka akhirnya mengatasi konflik internalnya dan yakin untuk datang ke Bandung untuk melakukan konferensi Asia Afrika. Karena Pak Ali Sastro-Amijoyo juga tidak hanya melobi Perdana Menteri negara-negara lain, tapi Pak Ali Sastro-Amijoyo juga melakukan lobby kepada parlemen-parlemen di beberapa negara untuk negaranya mengirimkan delegasi. Dan hal penting juga di konferensi Asia Afrika ini semangatnya adalah semangat memerdekakan beberapa negara. Ada beberapa negara seperti Nigeria itu merdeka setelah proses konferensi Asia Afrika ini. Jadi Inggris, Prancis melepaskan beberapa negara jajahannya untuk memerdekakan karena didorong oleh hasil dari konferensi Asia Afrika. Sehingga konferensi Asia Afrika adalah tidak hanya sekedar kalimat-kalimat statement, tetapi juga menjadi alat advokasi. Dan yang paling penting, konferensi Asia Afrika waktu itu semangatnya adalah kita menjadi blok baru di antara blok Barat Amerika Serikat dan blok Timur Uni Soviet, dan kita membuat blok baru, blok Asia Afrika dengan konsentrasi kepada human right, anti penjajahan, dan perdamaian dunia. Nah, semangat itu yang membuat kami di Bandung juga ingin meneruskan meneruskan ide-ide perdamaian. Kami senang Jakatarup, jaringan kerja antar umat beragama, bisa melengkapi gerakan-gerakan yang juga ada di Bandung seperti IOFC, Peacegen, Komuji, kemudian banyak lagi lembaga-lembaga yang mengusung tema perdamaian. Jadi sesuai apa yang disampaikan panitia, saya akan bercerita tentang gerakan perdamaian yang ada di Bandung. Salah satunya di antara banyak gerakan perdamaian yang luar biasa, Jakatarup di antaranya. Jakatarup berdiri di tahun 2000, ini respon saat itu Indonesia sangat banyak sekali konflik pasca reformasi, di mana-mana terjadi konflik antar agama, pembunuhan, pembakaran rumah ibadah, perusakan toko-toko, penghangusan rumah, korban mencapai 20.000 lebih dalam konflik yang terjadi di tahun 1998, 99 sampai 2001. Nah, tahun 2000 kami mendirikan Jakatarup, komunitas-komunitas anak muda lintas agama. Itu tagline-nya waktu itu, mari sudahi kekerasan atas nama agama. Kemudian berdirilah satu komunitas Jakatarup. Kami komunitas yang mandiri, independen, karena kami tidak mengakses dana dari funding, kami juga tidak memiliki sekretariat, sebelum pada akhirnya kami difasilitasi oleh Gereja Kristen Pasundan untuk ditempatkan di sekretariatnya di sini. Kami menyelenggarakan berbagai kegiatan dengan dana yang dikumpulkan bersama-sama secara sukarela, sehingga dalam setiap tahun kegiatan kami di tahun 2013 itu 77 kegiatan, 2014 itu 110 kegiatan, 2015 115 kegiatan, dan di 2023 kami menghitung 180 kegiatan. Nah, semuanya diselenggarakan atas partisipasi masyarakat. Jadi model yang kami lakukan adalah jika kami ingin melakukan kegiatan, semua diusung oleh bersama. Jadi ada lembaga keagamaan yang menyumbang makan, ada lembaga keagamaan yang membayar tempat, ada lembaga keagamaan yang membayar honor narasumber, transport peserta, sehingga kami selesaikan semuanya tidak dengan uang, tetapi dengan relasi, dengan jaringan. Pendekatan yang kami lakukan ada 4. Kami melakukan dialog antar agama dengan 4 pendekatan. Satu, pendekatan teologi, bahwa perdamaian, dialog agama itu harus muncul dari keyakinan agamanya masing-masing. Misalnya Kristen harus menonjolkan ajaran kasih, Hindu harus menonjolkan ajaran Tatwam Asi. Tatwam Asi itu aku adalah engkau dalam bentuk yang lain, atau engkau adalah aku dalam bentuk yang lain. Kemudian Islam harus menonjolkan ajaran rahmatan lil alamin, dan seterusnya. Yang kedua, pendekatan nationality, bahwa kita semua punya tujuan yang sama dalam bernegara, yaitu mencapai kesejahteraan bersama, mencerdaskan anak-anak bangsa, dan seterusnya. Kemudian yang ketiga, pendekatan kebudayaan, karena kita punya banyak budaya yang kalau dieksplor, budaya Indonesia itu banyak mengangkat budaya harmoni. Di Sunda misalnya ada silih asah, silih asih, silih asuh. Di Jawa ada gotong royong. Di Minahasa ada mapalus. Di Bugis ada sipaka lebe, sipaka bae, sipaka tahu, sipaka inga. Di berbagai daerah punya artefak-artefak tentang budaya harmoni. Yang keempat, pendekatan media kritis, karena banyak terjadi konflik antar agama itu karena cara kita membaca media tidak kritis. Ini literasi. Kemudian kegiatan dari Jakatarup untuk mempromosikan toleransi secara internasional, kami membuat koalisi Bandung Lautan Damai sejak tahun 2012. Koalisi Bandung Lautan Damai ini diikuti oleh 41 lembaga yang ada di Bandung, termasuk pemerintah, melibatkan banyak relawan, dan ini diselenggarakan satu rangkaian untuk memperingati Hari Toleransi Internasional yang jatuh setiap 16 November. Nah, di sini biasanya ada 16 rangkaian acara, mulai dari pelatihan advokasi, bedah buku, konser perdamaian, pameran, bikin komik, menulis bersama, dan seterusnya. Dan sekali lagi itu dilakukan secara crowdfunding, masing-masing tidak dibayar, tetapi mempersembahkan apa yang dia bisa. Kelompok musik mempersembahkan musik terbaiknya, komunitas film muter film-film tentang toleransi, dan di Bandung Lautan Damai ini Museum Konferensi Asia Afrika juga terlibat. Dan terakhir mungkin kegiatan Jakarta Group adalah advokasi untuk para korban kekerasan atas nama agama dan kekerasan atas nama gender. Kami juga terakhir concern untuk Interfaith Advocacy for Women Human Rights. Bagaimana mendorong kelompok antar agama untuk peduli terhadap hak-hak perempuan. My time is over, Mbak. Cukup? Enough?
And thank you so much for inviting me to contribute. So there's lots of things being said about what peace is, and peace is really people becoming different. Or you could say there's no way to peace. Peace is the way. So what might that involve? I hope from this Bandung Peace Week, each one of us will find the hope in seeing what our own next steps might be. Is there someone we need to forgive? It could be a friend or an enemy. Is there someone we need to make restitution to for some hurt that we inflicted? We all have these shadows in our lives, and the wonderful thing is we can make choices. We can decide to take the first step towards the other person if we want to play our part in bringing peace and healing to the world. Initiatives of Change is an international grassroots movement which began its transformational work more than 100 years ago. IFC has special consultative status with the United Nations in Geneva, and we have collaborated with the United Nations in different countries in peace-building efforts. IFC is for everyone who wants to build trust across the world's divides. We do this by inspiring, equipping, and connecting people to lead change starting in their own lives. Our main areas are ethical leadership, trust building, and peace building. I currently have the privilege to serve on the International IFC Panel of Elders, and I was the convener for some years. I'm now the administrator of the accompanying and mentoring program that the elders have established. It's called Emerging Agents of Change. We have a mentee-driven approach. That is, those who seek mentoring are in charge of clarifying their direction, while the mentor is the listener and supporter rather than advisor. We have participants, we've had participants from 20 countries, and we would like to offer it more widely to our global team, especially in those in more isolated situations. There's nothing more liberating or empowering than knowing you can start change with yourself. In any circumstances, how do we do that? I'm sure we can all think of places in our lives, in our family, in our community that we would like to see different. By looking at our lives in the light of the values of honesty, purity of intent, unselfishness, and love, writing down our thoughts about this can be clarifying, including any steps we can take to put these things right, to make restitution with anyone with whom that needs to be made. The best thing about this practice is being specific. When we are truthful and honest with ourselves, about ourselves, that can be painful, but it's also what frees us to be the best version of ourselves. And we can start to find clear direction about our way ahead and purpose of our lives. That was my experience many decades ago when I apologized to bosses for lying to them and to my parents for blaming them for my unhappiness. I started to take responsibility for my own choices. And I'm convinced we always have choice about how we respond to any situation. I took time to reflect, to listen to my inner voice in silence, and I still take time to do that every morning. And that is how I became connected with Indonesia. The morning after 9/11, I was walking in a city park in Sydney, near where I worked, and a young Muslim family came walking towards me. I was surprised that I felt anger rising because of what had just happened in New York with the Twin Towers. Many of us did that in the West. We generalized it, generalized our feelings. I reflected on that, and I decided in my quiet time that I would get to know my Muslim neighbours in the suburb where I lived in Sydney. And there was an Islamic centre I could go to. I met with them and they invited me to a meal, and I started to establish some connection and understanding. I started to break down the barriers of mistrust in myself. There's a lot of fear and ignorance in a lot of people because they don't know what Islam is. Another thing happened the next year. My nephew at the age of 19 was murdered in Brisbane. It was drug-related. It was heartbreaking. And I started to think then about young people and what I could do to help them find purpose in their lives. That became a much stronger and deeper purpose and calling for me. Then the next year, I was invited to Indonesia and had the joy of working with young Indonesians. And I met Huda not long after that. And in fact, I've been to Indonesia maybe 18 times now, once for the wedding of Huda and Nenden. Also, my brother Ron has a long history with Indonesia, a longer history than I have, and he speaks Bahasa, which I wish I did. I've been so inspired by my visits there, and I began to see that this could be because Australia and Indonesia are so different. We can celebrate that difference, and yet we're very close neighbours in the Indo-Pacific region, and we could start to model the peace we want to see in the world and learn to work together in unity and diversity as the Indonesian national principles reflect in the Pancasila. Many Indonesians are open to that, and there's lots of wisdom in Indonesia. I've learned so much, especially about how much democracy is valued by grassroots people and how hard Indonesians have fought, especially the students in the 1990s, to overthrow the dictatorship of Suharto. In fact, I've actually felt a bit ashamed of the ignorance that many Australians like me have had, and many Australians do have, about Indonesia and its history. And it's such a valuable history. And that was the beginning of what was a real gift to me of being able to come and support the trust building work in Indonesia. Huda was actually doing the trust building work before we started doing it internationally through initiatives of change. I have so many stories of people I got to know, and I won't tell you all of them. In 2005, I was coming to Indonesia to invite people to a conference in Brisbane, a peace building conference. I was a bit nervous, and when I arrived in Changi, Singapore's airport, a question came up in my mind: what am I doing going to Indonesia by myself? And a voice came from somewhere saying, but you're not going to be by yourself, you're going to be with your Indonesian friends. So I stayed with the family of Ibu Lili Munia, and we became close friends. And Ibu Lili was an Islamic scholar, so I couldn't have had a better person to learn from. And by the way, we had two very distinguished delegates to that conference, one a vice president of the Nahdlatul Ulama and the other human rights commissioner. And I have many stories of time spent with Ibu Lili that I find quite moving now that she has passed away. She applied the values of initiatives of change in her meetings with community women because she ran a human rights group in Jakarta, and she had creators of peace circles also in her home. And in 2009, Ibu Lili was a speaker in an international Creators of Peace conference in Sydney. So I'm going now to trust building in Australia with First Nations, Indigenous people. It's a current challenge because it brings our credibility and authenticity as a country into question. Our past history is confronting, but we need to own it honestly, all of us, everybody who lives there, through truth-telling and truth-listening. What happened to First Nations people is our pain to own, all of us, wherever we come from. Then we will start to find peace and healing in our own country, the dignity from doing that in ourselves, and be able to be a trusted peacemaker in the world, and not least with Indonesia. We took another step in that journey with Indonesia when a group of Indonesian friends came to Australia in the middle of this year. And we formed the Indonesia-Australia Collective. So we're looking forward to developing that with you all. It was such an enjoyable visit, and it included Brisbane and Melbourne, so I'm so grateful for that. So I'll just close with my initial questions, which could clarify what our next steps might be as individuals. Is there someone we need to forgive? Is there someone we need to make restitution to for some hurt we have inflicted? That is the best way for us to come together as a very powerful force for healing and peace in the world. So please join us. Terima kasih.